What I've got here is what I class as semi-trained raw material. It's a little juniper that's been growing quite nicely now for about 5 or 6 years. I've done a little bit of shaping to it, but not a lot, just really a bit of pruning out and just keeping it small. So what I'd like to do is to show you, I'm just going to work through it and do a bit of pruning and a bit of shaping to it, and then you can just watch and think of any questions. When you're doing something like this, you need to spend a long time looking at it. I've already looked at it a little bit beforehand, so I'm gonna start. I've decided on which is the front, so I will just chip away and you watch it appear. This is a softwood. Pines, junipers, trees like that, they're softwoods. And broadleaf trees generally are hardwoods. So an oak tree is a hardwood. The thing about these trees, junipers, is that they need to have a certain amount of foliage in order to keep the sap flowing through the wood. Broadleaf trees, they have the ability to hold moisture in the wood. So they have the ability to lose all the foliage and then re-sprout again in the springtime. Whereas these ones, if I was to take off too much foliage, the tree would die. So we just do a little bit. Also, the branches on these are a lot more flexible because of the grain structure. It means I can bend them around a bit more. Yeah. Whereas the other trees like Henry and trees like that, very, very brittle, so they tend to break a lot more. Okay, let's do a bit of wiring. The wiring is the bit where people start off in bonsai and they want to get some wire, they want to get wiring that tree. And
well, I think the thing about wiring is it's you really imposing your will on the tree, isn't it? Rather than just...
Well, it shouldn't be. You should be working with the tree at every stage. So what I'm looking for, I'm not thinking about, well, I just want a branch over there. I'm looking at the shape of the trunk. Where do I need a branch? The trunk will tell me where I need the branch to be. And all I do with the wire is ease the branches into certain positions. At the moment, the biggest thing with this is that all the branches are sticking up. And old trees, the branches tend to sag. And so one of the biggest things is that we're going to bring the branches down. So what I'm going to do now is put a little bit of wire on here. I've got a wire that's going to be not too thick and overpowering on the branch, but just thick enough to hold it in position. I want to get roughly about the right length, just a little bit longer than the branch itself. I want to go round the trunk and then along another branch. So I'm going to wire 2 branches together. So what I've done is I've put a piece of wire around the trunk. That's now really firm on the tree. And I am going to carefully, very gently, ease the wire onto the tree. To make sure that I don't put it on too tight, not too loose. But you do need to just take your time and work with the tree.
What sort of wire is it?
This is aluminium wire that's just coated to make it look a bit better.
So it's just very soft and pliable.
It is, yes, yeah. So that's what we mean when we're wiring 2 branches together. 1 piece of wire to do 2 branches. Now what I need to do is to carry on up the tree. And I've got another branch here which I might bring down in a minute. We'll look and see how that goes.
How long would you leave the wire on for?
As long as it needs to be on there.
Well, how would you know when it doesn't need to be on?
When it starts to look tight. Basically the tree is going to be growing, and it grows at different rates at different times of the year. So you are constantly looking, and really I recommend that you check it weekly. So you go out and have a look. No, that looks all right. As soon as the bottom of the wire starts to disappear and you can't see right sort of down the bottom bit of the wire, you know the tree's starting to grow around it. That's when the wire needs to come off. The last thing you want is these horrible wire scars that go round and round the tree like a python. So they might be on for 2 or 3 weeks, might be on for 2 or 3 months, but certainly no more than that really. Right, use a slightly smaller wire. They go up in gauges, generally starting off at about 1 mil. which is a cross-section size of it, and going up to about 6 mil. So it goes 1, 1.5 mil, 2 mil, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, so on. You get a feel for the different size wires that you need. You need to do a little bit more pruning. Another piece of wire.
I can see how you get really immersed in this, because when you do this kind of job, you're really in contact with the tree, aren't you, and seeing how it's shaped. And
You've got to be studying every little bit of it, and you have to really think about what it is that, not just what you're trying to achieve as well, and the spaces that you're trying to fill. Should gradually start to take shape. I mean, it's still got many, many years to go yet. There's no such thing as an instant bonsai. But it just gets a basic shape, and from there we can start working with it. Right, we've got a basic structure. Now we just need a bit of a tidy up, make sure we've got some balance to the tree. So what I'm going to do now is going to go round and trim off a few of the little branches growing in the wrong direction now, and then we'll have another look at it and perhaps do a little bit more wiring. I want to just clean up any bits of foliage that are sticking straight up and straight down. Now I've changed the angle of the branch, it makes the foliage look a little bit strange. Should start to look more like a tree and less like a bush. I'm going to wire these bits, little tiny bits at the top there now, get a little bit fiddly. Do a little bit of finger pinching around here. Starting now just to get the shape, the basic shape, and the bonsai is starting to emerge.
so you're even training that tiny little shoot.
I'm going to do this tiny one. Really, I'm doing it more just to help show the shape of it, really. That's the basic structure. Still a lot more work to do on it. I've got a lot of fine wiring to do all around these branches here, a bit more pinching, and then it's got to grow a little bit, and so on. And you can see I haven't really changed it an awful lot. I haven't manipulated the trunk at all. I've used the trunk is the same as it was before. The branches I haven't really changed. I've removed some of the branches to add space. I have brought the branches down and I've tweaked them a little bit. So I haven't really changed it. I haven't thought, this is what I want. I've looked at the tree and I thought, this is what the tree wants. And I've tried to capture what the tree would do if it was just to grow naturally. Some of the branches would die out, leaving more space for the other branches. Those branches will grow, they'll get heavier, they'll start to droop down a bit. So I like to work with the tree. And as the tree grows, I'll carry on working with it. And in theory, the next person who works with this tree will be able to look at it and say, well, I like the way the trunk comes up there and that branch comes out there and so on and so on. So it should always follow the same path. So it's a question of working with the tree. It's what I call reading the tree, reading the bonsai. Looking at the trunk, seeing which way it turns and bends, and fitting the branches in and around that trunk. So we've got many, many years to go yet. Still looks a little bit scruffy. It takes a long time for the foliage to start to regrow on top of the branches. Don't forget, we've changed the whole angle of them. So in a period of years, I'll keep pinching out some of the foliage and it'll regrow on the top and form lovely clouds creeping up through the tree. So there we are, start.
Brilliant.
Start of another bonsai.